Thank you, everybody. Thank you, AdvancedAg. And what I'm going to do is spend, roughly 30 minutes talking about really the theory without getting too technical, and the practice, how we go about things with lake treatment. I want to say, right from the start that anyone who wants additional technical information, actual data, any strain-specific studies, these are all available, but I'm not including them in this presentation as it's the afternoon and I want everyone to stay as close to awake as possible. So hopefully you'll bear with me on that and I'll target it correctly. My company, TLC Products, we're located in Cleveland, Ohio, right by the airport. And I've been working with the wonderful family group, started Advanced Water and now being AdvancedAg for over 20 years. And as Josh mentioned, our history, we started in wastewater, moved to water treatment, lake and pond, and now we've added agriculture, crop yield, and pest reduction to our product portfolio and our technology mix. So, really, those three areas, while distinct, have some commonalities in terms of the bacteria that we use, how they work. And what I really want to discuss is the practical aspects of both the theory and how to do it and what to expect when we're using our lake treatment technology. A real quick primer on TLC Products. We kind of coasted along. We were incorporated in 1996, and for about the first 10, 15 years, we were happy to stay primarily in retail markets. We sold a lot of septic tank and aquarium products, pond products to garden centers and pet stores and this sort of thing. With the advent of 2013, really, we were starting to make some noise, positive noise, and a big catalyst in what we did. We actually had a visit to our facility by Karen Mills, who was the administrator of the Small Business Administration of the U.S., and she was a member of President Obama's cabinet. And it really got us a lot of news. We had contacts that I never dreamed of. We move on a year later, we received the U.S. Small Business Administration Exporter of the Year. We had taken our products from our relatively small but growing company into so many different countries. And of course, we had been working with Canada, very, very closely in water and wastewater for about 10 years at this point. Every year since 2013, we've been awarded, it's a multi-state regional award. It's called the Weatherhead 100. It's for the top 100 fastest growing companies in the area. And to do that every year for 7 going on 8 years, it's something we're very proud of. So, we have a very nice track record, and we've just been moving along, growing, and to be quite honest, we wouldn't be where we are without our partnership with AdvancedAg, John Dirksen, Cal Koskowitz. All the people have contributed so much through research and innovation and knowledge. We hold a number of U.S. and international patents. Just a few months ago, we received our first patent for a biopesticide that controls nematodes and various fungal infections in agriculture, and that's something we plan to move aggressively with in the U.S. and Canada. So that's just a background a bit on where we've been and what we're doing. So when we're talking about lake treatment, Joshua mentioned the very nice homes that are adjacent to stormwater ponds. It seems that nice homes are either built exactly next to a wastewater plant or to lakes that go green. And I don't know who's in charge of those contracts, but we see it all the time. So obviously, getting rid of algae from a cosmetic point of view is very important. But we also have harmful algae blooms that produce toxins. Anytime there's an algae bloom, there's sludge issues. It causes odor issues. And so we're really talking about, okay, what is the driving mechanism? What's really happening? And, at the top level, there's nitrogen and phosphorus nutrients. And from fertilizer runoff and, dead and dying leaves and so forth, pouring into lakes and ponds, nitrogen and phosphorus are always getting into the lakes and into the stormwater ponds, being swept in. One of the things that we know and that we take advantage of and really leverage is that algae and bacteria are often in very similar ecological niches. And they generally coexist in a balance. Algae are not bad. They provide oxygen. They're very important. You cannot kill all the algae in a lake and have a healthy biosystem. And really, we're talking about balance between all the microorganisms in a lake. And that's a situation that we want. And it's one of the reasons that algicides in particular that are killing algae are not necessarily the best option for algae treatment in a lake. And bottom line, when nitrogen and phosphorus are in excess, algae can dominate. They've evolved all sorts of mechanisms to preferentially pull N and P at a stronger rate in a better fashion than some other microbes. So when they get a hold and they get into a bloom situation, it can be a real challenge. And obviously, we've all seen in the summer, the algae problems are exacerbated. It's sunlight increases algal growth, and it inhibits much of the bacterial growth. And if what we're talking about is a balance between the algae and the bacteria, when we have real bright sunlight, we've got strong UV, improving the algae competitive advantage and hurting the bacteria. This is a lot of times when you get the blooms, and that's when things get out of whack and out of balance. And of course, as the algae blooms become as large as they can, then they die off, they fall to the bottom of the lake. This happens in a cycle, and it builds up as bottom sludge along with the other organic material that gets swept into either the stormwater pond or the lake. And basically, the bottom sludge contains little or no oxygen. And I'm going to use the term anaerobic loosely. There's always some oxygen, even very close to the bottom. But anaerobic, I think we'll just tell everybody, okay, that means there's very little oxygen at the bottom. And the bottom line is when there's organic sludge at the bottom and very little or zero oxygen, that's an ideal environment for the growth of bacteria that are known to cause odors. So the worse sludge problem you have, the more odor you're going to have, basically by definition. And the more you break up the sludge and disturb that interface between the water and the sludge, you're getting rid of the preferred environment for the odor-causing bacteria. And you can simultaneously reduce sludge and odor, and you'll see the odor reduction first. The sludge reduction is a slower process, but anytime we do a treatment, we generally see odor reduction in the first number of days or a week or so. As we go on here, there are all different technologies for targeting algae. We have sonication and copper chemicals and nutrient elimination, runoff mitigation, all sorts of things. Our approach is assuming that everything is being done to reduce the runoff and the fertilizer infiltration into the lakes and so forth, but there's only so much that people can do. And therefore, we have, over the years, realized that by using 3 pathways, and I'm going to describe each of those, we're ensuring optimal results in our lakes. And, of all these different products that are out there, you might have sonication that disrupts algal cells and kills them, but it doesn't do anything to restore a balance. And we could go on with that, but you'll see when I discuss and I list these 3 different pathways that using all of them simultaneously gives the best frequency of success and the best overall results across all of the different problem areas that we discussed on a previous slide. And the first of the 3 pathways is adding massive numbers of completely safe, literally, live nitrifying bacteria. We'll call those bacteria nitrifying. It's more complicated than that, but they basically take ammonia, turn it into nitrite, turn it into nitrate, and it's a natural process that needs to go on. The second pathway is digesting bottom sediment or organic sludge. And in the Henderson Lake example that will be discussed a little bit down the road, and also in this presentation, we see the rates of sludge reduction that are possible. And this is the second of the 3 pathways. And the third is literally removing nitrogen from the system, and we'll talk about how that can be done, and sequestering P, phosphate, and in particular the bioactive important form of phosphate, which is orthophosphate, removing N and sequestering P in lakes and ponds. So those 3 pathways together is basically the summary of all of the biochemical means we can bring to bear to improve the balance and to restore a proper balance in a lake or stormwater pond. Now, to do all of the above, we need a multi-strain bacterial product. No one organism will do all of those 3 items that are listed, the 3 pathways. And we've spent a lot of time formulating, making sure the product's stable, making sure that it is on spec. And as long as we're able to do that, we are able to make sure that all 3 pathways are in place and functioning. And what that means is the vast majority of our projects are really successful. And I think what that really means is that, in any one season, 80 to 90% of all lake users, regardless of size, will see dramatic results to where there's no question that the product is doing what it should be doing and what we claim. There will be some instances where it may be that the problem was so bad it's just going to take longer, or it might have an exceptionally heavy infiltration of nutrients coming into the lake, some things that might come into play, but those are very few and far between. So we see a very, very good success rate by making sure all 3 of those pathways are involved. I'm going to briefly talk about each of the pathways in a little bit of specifics. Nitrifying bacteria, which I mentioned, okay, that's pathway 1. AOBs and NOBs, ammonia oxidizing, nitrite oxidizing. Basically what that is doing is taking ammonia and converting it into nitrate, which then becomes a food for something else. An important thing about the nitrifiers, 2 things really. Sunlight inhibits their growth. So if you have very, very, very shallow ponds, it's tough for the nitrifiers to survive at all. So, one of the limitations we see if we have a system that maybe has half a meter to a meter or so of depth, it takes a much, much higher dose of product to get success. And that's because the sunlight can penetrate throughout the entire water column, and the nitrifiers have just a tough time surviving. The second thing is once an algae bloom really takes hold, and it's documented by all sorts of researchers, the algae blooms actually crowd out the nitrifiers. And since they're in a similar ecological niche, that's not surprising, but it's very tough to get natural nitrifiers that are resident in the lake to get going at a useful rate when there's already an algae bloom. The algae just prevent it. And it makes it an opportunity and a need for us to add our nitrifiers. So we literally, we supply both ready to use and brewed on site nitrifiers. Ready to use is a bottled product, and Ryan talked about combos, and he also talked about brewed on site in the Brutus unit, and we have both options for that. So that's pathway one, just getting the nitrifiers going. Pathway two is sludge digesting bacteria, and this may be an area where you'll want more papers or data, and those are all available. But let's take this from a common sense point of view. If you're in a situation where you're looking at a lake over the years, sludge always builds up. It never decreases by itself. The sludge is always accumulating. And the fact is that many, many microbes are capable of breaking down a sludge, but in the real world, the bottom sludge just keeps on building up. The reason really is the microbes that would break down the sludge, they don't have a mouth. They have really a cell wall, which is sort of a screen or a semi-permeable membrane. And the microbes have to manufacture a class of enzymes known as exoenzymes in order to digest the sludge. And without those enzymes, the breakdown of sludge doesn't really happen, and the food can't even get inside most of the microbes because they don't have a mouth. They have this semi-permeable screen. So these enzymes have to be made for the breakdown of sludge to occur. The problem is it is expensive, to use a word I think we can probably all relate to, for the microbe to make the enzymes. Any of the microbes have a limited amount of material, which is various chemicals that build up its body, and energy, which is ATP, their fermentation energy. Material and energy are required to make these special enzymes. And when they divert that material and energy to making the enzymes, they don't reproduce very fast at all. In fact, most of the time, they're only making the enzymes when they're in death phase and starving. And the bottom line is that as we see in real life, as the sludge is always building up, it's because the microbes would rather channel their energy into reproduction than into making the enzymes. Taking advantage of that really common sense fact, we use the Brutus units, which Ryan discussed, to optimize the sludge digestion when it's needed. And what really happens there, and we can supply plenty more information to those who are interested in the Brutus units by growing the organisms and then continuing to aerate them at temperature beyond the point when nutrients are exhausted. It's starving them and telling them that they have no food left. They can't reproduce unless they make those enzymes. And we grow them to that point. And I actually hold, one of my first US patents was on this process exactly. So we use the Brutus to grow those organisms until they're so hungry, essentially, that they have no choice but to make the enzymes to break down the sludge. Now, when the sludge digestion begins to happen, any of the organisms in a lake benefit. They have a very simple source of food. It passes into their cells, and it means sludge digestion is occurring. Once sludge digestion is happening, that anaerobic home where the odor-causing bacteria live, it's disturbed. And what happens is that the odor problems are really very quickly solved, and that's a fantastic thing. about one of our programs. I mean, it may take a full season or even 2 seasons to see sludge reduction. It may take several weeks to see algae reduction, but odor reduction is something that you'll see in the first several days to a week, and it lets you know, okay, this is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Pathway 3 is really taking nitrogen, which is one of the first nutrients we talked about, and converting it into nitrogen gas. Basically, we have this process, the nitrifying bacteria. They turn that ammonia into nitrate. The sludge digesting bacteria break down the sludge and give the certain bacteria the food they need to fuel up. And then these denitrifying bacteria, of which there are plenty in the lake, there are plenty in any stormwater pond. As long as the first 2 things are going on, they'll convert nitrate into nitrogen gas. And nitrogen gas makes up roughly 80% of our atmosphere. So it's obviously a non-toxic, non-problem turning nitrate into nitrogen gas. And that's a mechanism where nitrogen is completely stripped from a lake system. And it is very helpful in mitigating the various problems we've discussed already. So those 3 pathways, whether we put that in with ready-to-use product or with the Brutus, all 3 are necessary to restore balance to the lake or the pond. Any one of those 3 might be helpful in a given situation, but if you want a 90% chance that you're going to be thrilled with the result in one season, you need to have all 3 pathways together. And that's what we've learned how to do. Just a quick note on the products that we use, the combos, they're ready to use products, and it is 1 unit of a combo is a liquid bacterial concentrate with nitrifying, sludge digesting, and denitrifying bacteria. Extremely concentrated, extremely stable, and the EcoSox, which Josh referred to in the irrigation projects. And that's a powdered mix of bacteria, specialized nutrient, and a self-contained oxygen source. So it's essentially breeding sludge digesting and denitrifying bacteria for a full month. So with that ready-to-use combo pack, it's typically dosed once a month. It's repeated, and if you have a static lake as opposed to a stormwater pond, it's a great solution. If you have a stormwater pond, it might be tough because the turnover is quicker than a month. But golf courses and various homeowner association ponds, municipal ponds where there's a long holding time, combo packs are really, really good. EcoBac is a powdered blend of bacteria and nutrients used with the Brutus when we know the lakes need sludge reduction. And then new for this year is EcoBac pellets. And it's really a complement to any of the products when we need spot treatment in small to mid-sized lakes and ponds. We've actually seen that it really accelerates sequestering, particularly of phosphorus. So there are situations where use of those EcoBac pellets will be very valuable when you have a really tough problem. We're going to talk about, just in general, we've already mentioned combo packs. That's ready to use, typically 1 application a month. And generally, 1 combo pack treats 1/4 acre for 1 month. And then, of course, Brutus bioreactors, which Ryan has done a fantastic job configuring for flexibility and dependability. They're for larger lakes. And any given Brutus unit, when tailored for lake treatment, will produce about 4 batches a month, depending on how it's used. And one of the things that I didn't realize until just now, and it's a good thing to point out, that Dose Point and Henderson Lake, where the entire lake was treated by dosing only at 1 point. Our recommendation is that dosing around the lake periphery has always been good enough, and you see product migrating throughout the system. Apparently, if you do it long enough, you can dose at only one point in even a very large lake, but that's not ideal. When you can, you'll want to dose around the periphery at a number of points, and you can use some common sense, and our judgment will be helpful as well in terms of where to add more product, how often. So here we have just one interesting case study on the combo packs. This is Pfizer Pharmaceuticals Johnson Controls site in Lincoln, Nebraska in the States. It's an 8-acre lake, and that's about as large of a lake as would be treated with the combos. I mean, that would probably be something you would normally treat with a Brutus, but maybe the first year you use combos, gain some confidence and move on to a Brutus thereafter. But essentially, the chemical and physical treatments were not getting the job done. They began combo pack use in 2017. And really at each of the 14 white marks, they applied 2 combo packs each month. And the results were really, really fabulous. We have here a photo history of 2 sides of the lake, and you see from the top, right when the first dose was applied in May, going down really just 6, 7, 8 weeks, the exceptional clarity that ensued. And as the site manager, Steve Amos mentioned, their lake just had not responded well to copper and herbicides, and the combo packs really, really got the job done, knocked out the odor, solved the algae problem, and then they just continue on with that. And it's basically 3 months of the year they treat, sometimes 4 if it's a really bad summer in terms of a lot of sun. And those combo packs, they're available in both the USA and Canada. I think Josh and AdvancedAg has their combos on their website. We have ours on our website. There are all kinds of examples. I'm not going to bore you too much with show and tell, but so many different climates, so many different types of situations, ranch ponds, farm ponds where the animals would not even drink the water previously that are now inhabited for proper drinking. Here we have Sheridan, Wyoming, and we have here a really interesting little graphic, and this is actually the dugout treatment with combos there in Canada. On the left side of the screen, you see really a frequency of occurrence. Now, this was treating 30 dugouts a couple years back, and there was really just one pond that only had 5% reduction. But as you see, looking across, the largest bar that was 20 to 25% reduction over the course of a season. And the average reduction there was about that 22.5% over the course of just one season. And it's a real nice picture of what you might expect. Okay, if you're one of the lucky ones, you might see 35% reduction in a season. If you're on the really unlucky end for whatever reason, that's 5 or 10%, might just see a few percent reduction in sludge. But by and large, you're seeing a really good sludge reduction. And the image on the right in terms of the water clarity, on the average across these 30 dugouts, the chlorophyll A was, and that's a measure of the algal content, it was reduced from 27 to 17 parts per billion. That's milligrams per cubic meter. So it's a 22% reduction in sludge and a 40% reduction in chlorophyll. And that means a really nice change in clarity. Those are great results, and it's across 30 different treatments, and the averages tell the story. Here we have a New Hampshire farm pond with cyanobacteria control. very important because that's a harmful algae bloom that can make the animals sick. New Zealand is a very big user of the product. We have a number of high-profile sites there. You can see from the pictures, the obvious changes in clarity and aesthetics of the pond. So we have thousands of these examples, but I just wanted to put some pictures out for this discussion. Now we'll go on to a brewing application. This is a large lake at Boca West in Boca Raton, Florida. And this here's a 300-acre project. They have a number of large lakes that are maybe 50 acres in size, and then they have a bunch of smaller lakes, and they all run together. It's really a giant stormwater situation. But basically what we have there is, after years of them trying everything as an alternative, the various chemicals, the manual scraping of surface algae, and Boca Raton is a very wealthy area of Florida where if the water is not nice, people get unhappy. But what we have here is really a 90% reduction in algae and 50% reduction in accumulated sludge over the last 5 years. It's an ongoing project and something that has gained us a lot of extra business in the States, because a lot of people are happy to go there and see it for themselves. In this case, they have 8 different 500-gallon prep tanks. Brutus was not invented when they started. So these are not as sophisticated as the Brutus units that are available in Canada, but they work. And each tank produces 4 batches a month, and basically it will crank out when running full tilt 16,000 total gallons of product a month. And you see the picture in the lower right, pulling product out of the prep tank, or the less sophisticated USA version of the Brutus. They'll drive around the periphery of the lake and spray the product in. And as you can see in this situation, it's a non-toxic, non-pathogenic, very safe, no special handling requirements. So that's what we consider a very nice benefit to the product as well. You don't have to wear hazmat material like you might have to if you're applying herbicides or various algicides. Here's just a quick example of some of the other potential uses. Now here's a environmental and really a human benefit in the Eerste River around Stellenbosch. It's in South Africa. It's a 2-kilometer stretch that in 6 months, we took it from being non-usable by people and being absolutely horrendously polluted with E. coli, other harmful algae situations. And what we've done with a treatment similar to what you saw with the Boca Raton project is that you have the ammonia nitrogen going from a level of about 20 down to a level of about 4 or 5. You have the COD, that's a measure of the chemical oxygen demand. It's a measure of the pollutants in the river. And again, that was knocked down by about 75%. The odor was really knocked out. And, that's the common thing through every application. And the river quality is now suitable for irrigation. So what it really did was take maybe 20 farms that were, 20 small farms where the people depended on irrigation water to live. It restored that water for irrigation use, and it made just a tremendous benefit at a human level. And that's different than the aesthetics, but it's all the same mechanisms, those same 3 pathways. So, really in summary, we have the 3 pathways that are all important. We have the nitrification, we have the sludge digestion, and the denitrification. And our products promote all three. And to do that, we have ready-to-use and Brutus units. Combo packs are the ready-to-use. And if you're at a small pond up to maybe 5, 6, 7 acres at the most, really, combo packs would be your choice. And then maybe from about 5 acres up to any size you want, the Brutus unit gives you the economy and the large doses at the best possible cost. And both approaches are non-engineered, natural, beneficial, harmless bacteria. And we've set up the product offering so that depending on your situation, you can go with the simplicity and the slightly higher cost, or the automation and the capital cost, but a much lower ongoing cost of product, and actually better efficacy when you're using the Brutus. I would like to mention that you can always request a proposal for your lake. Over the years, we've developed a dynamic dose chart that takes into account all the lake major factors, generates the proposal that is based on the extent of the sludge problem, the odor problem, the algae problem, the volume of the lake, the seasonality, and we can very quickly get you a detailed proposal for your system. And I want you to understand that whether you need additional case studies, technical papers, additional detail on any of the 3 pathways, those are all available. Contact Joshua or Ryan at AdvancedAg, and they probably have what you need, but if not, they'll get with me and I'll put together extra information. So that is everything that I wanted to say for today.